Good morning, eighth graders. Today is Monday, March 30th. We are going to start our new set of notes for today. We are going to be looking at Texas independence, which is one of the note packets that you got when I handed out all those note packets that last Friday that we were in school. So go ahead and get those out. For today, I'm just going to have you follow along. There is no writing for the notes for today, but there will be some for tomorrow and Wednesday. So for right now, just follow along. Feel free to take some notes on the side if you like. I know I always do that before I try and teach it in class. So um, go ahead and just, it's going to be an easy Monday for sure. Make sure that you do the bell ringer and the exit ticket for today. And then also the Independence for Texas, which is the homework packet that is due this Friday. Make sure that you're keeping up with that. We have already had three due while we've been doing this online digital learning. So make sure that you are keeping up with those. The Independence for Texas is due Friday. It is 13 questions. So maybe do three or four a day just so you're not having to do all of them at one time. So for today, the I can statement is explain one way settlement in Texas grew during the 1820s. So we'll go ahead and get started. Colonization in Texas. At this point, we are going to look at how Texas became a state and then how people were pushed or pulled into that manifest destiny of settling there. But real quick, let me show you what Texas looked like in 1845. So when Texas became a state, it looks very different than what it does today. So I just wanted you to kind of see how it goes a little bit more north than it typically does right now. But it was also at this point in time in the 1820s attached to Mexico. So in 1820s, Texas included a handful of Americans and about 3,000 Tejanos. So a Tejano is a people of Mexican heritage who consider Texas their home. So people that originated from Texas or from Mexico, they're native from Mexico, and they are the ones that believe that um, like Texas is their original homeland. So a Tejano is pretty much anybody that is a non-Native American people. So again, just originating from Mexico. Most of Texas belonged to Native American tribes like the Comanche and the Apache. A couple character traits of the Apache is the Apache were Native Americans that were known to be like warriors and fighters, and the Comanche was they were known for being good hunters. But both Native American tribes were pretty heavily affected by illness and disease at one point. And also, thing to make note of when you're looking at these Native American tribes is that they were enemies of one another. So they did not get along. They did not have that Native American union like we've seen in the past during this 1800s, where some Native American tribes came together for a sole purpose. That was not the case with the Comanche and the Apache tribes. The first Texas empresarios, sorry, that is a very American way of saying that. So pretty much what I want you to know about this is that there was a group of people that were encouraging um, new Americans to settle in Texas in order to increase their settlement. And they wanted them to come as citizens to Mexico. So these empresarios were people who agreed to recruit settlers. So they were trying to bring or pull people into Texas and kind of grow their population numbers. But we're going to have to make a couple lifestyle changes, which we'll look at here in the next couple slides. So let's look at the key people that were involved in that. The name was Moses Austin. That should sound familiar because of Texas Austin. The Austin family was one of the big names in Texas at this time and bringing people to live in Texas. So obviously the state, the biggest city in the state, Austin, Texas, was named after them. So Moses Austin, a Missouri businessman, got Spain to grant him a huge tract of land along the Brazaros River. So we're going to look at the Brazaros River. It takes up a large portion or goes through a large portion of Texas. In return, Austin would bring 300 families with him. So this was a trade to increase settlement from Americans to Texas and bringing them to be Mexican citizens, or sorry, Texas citizens. So, oh, if this is going to load here, hold on, I apologize. So right here is the Brazaros River. If it will load, uh-oh, hold on. Looks like the river slides aren't loading in my slides, so I'll just point to them right here in the corner. Hopefully you can see my mouse. Is that the Brazaros River was a river that went right here through Texas. So it was a very large point of land. So that was how they were bringing them through the Brazaros River. So continuing on with our notes. Hopefully, this continues to load. Perfect. So Moses Austin died. So his son, Stephen F. Austin, continued to carry out his plans of bringing new settlers into Texas in 1821. So about this time, Mexico wins its independence from Spain, so it becomes its own independent nation. Um, and Mexico gives more land to Austin. So continuing with that deal or that barter that they had with making sure that these impresarios were bringing new settlers in to kind of increase their settlement, increase their population, and make Texas a larger population. So, American colonists in Texas, the Mexican government granted each settler in Texas large tracts of land. So, the deal was if you settle permanently in Texas, in return, you will gain this large piece of land for yourself and your family, but you have to promise to become a citizen of Mexico. So, the three things that you had to sacrifice or give up or kind of change with your lifestyle is becoming a citizen of Mexico, which did include being able to speak Spanish and obey Mexico's laws while you're settling in Texas and accept the Roman Catholic faith. So these were the exchanges that were needed to make in this deal. You will get this tract of land, you will get this place to settle, but you need to do these three things. So becoming a citizen of Texas while residing in or becoming a citizen of Mexico while residing in Texas, obey Mexico's laws, accept the Roman Catholic faith. And we're going to talk about Mexico's government here in a second and what that looked like. So obviously there was a growing conflict. People that were American settlers were used to living under an American government that had led to more freedom. Obviously, they were not constrained to the Roman Catholic Church at that point. They were able to kind of worship or have freedom of their religion. They were also able to have slaves, especially the southern states. So thousands of US settlers moved into Texas without Mexico's permission and without making these exchanges of becoming a citizen, speaking the language, being involved in the Roman Catholic Church, as well as following Mexican government laws. So colonists on the Brazos River were using slaves to grow cotton in 1829 when the Mexican government did prohibit slavery. So this led to the Mexican government doing something called passing out a decree to close the borders in order to stop immigration and people coming over to the Mexican Texas border altogether. So, obviously, slaveholders that were used to the southern areas of the United States were just completely baffled by the idea that the government would deprive them of their human, and I put in quotes and also on the slide, property, and that human property being considered the slaves. They thought, how else would we grow these large portions of cotton at this point on these plantations? Why would we not be allowed to have slaves? They just did not realize that, or they did not appreciate that being a Mexican law that they had to follow. So American settlers wanted to have the same voice in government that they enjoyed in the US, having those political freedoms, freedom of press, speech, religion, having the ability to own slaves at this point, especially if they resided in the South. So Mexican officials, however, insisted on tight political control. So political control in Mexico looked. Oh, I'm going to pause this for one more second while this loads. One moment, I apologize. Sorry, continuing on. So, in 1830s, at this point, there were five times more Anglos or U.S. settlers, so people that were settling from the United States of America, lived in Texas than the Tejanos, which were those native um, Mexican people that were using Texas as their native home. So, in 1830, Mexican Congress banned further immigration, which was that decree that we talked about earlier. The Anglos, or the U.S. white settlers, protested furiously, and Stephen F. Austin went to Mexico City with a petition for reforms, trying to find a compromise, a treaty, a point of peace where they could both continue to live ceremoniously and happily and peacefully. But many people began talking about splitting Texas off from Mexico entirely and instead joining it to the United States of America instead of maintaining it to be a separate entity or having its own independence. So, the fight for independence, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna became the new head of the Mexican government. So, at this point, the Mexican government was looking more like a dictatorship than a democracy, which was, again, something that was incredibly different to people that previously resided under the United States of American government. So Santa Anna, the Napoleon of the West, was the nickname that he was deemed in the history books, suspended the Mexican Constitution and assumed the powers of dictator so he could have more control over how he chose to deal with the people that were coming into Texas and not following um, those three stipulations that they were given of becoming a citizen, following Mexican laws, and then also being a part of the Roman Catholic Church. So many Texans believed the time had come to break away from Mexico and become their own state. And this is when Santa Anna was realized that they were talking about revolting, rebelling, becoming their own state. He ordered soldiers to seize a cannon in the town of Gonzales, but the Texas volunteers that were fighting defiantly hung a flag over the cannon that said, "Come and take it." So obviously, still rebelling against Santa Anna, who did not have a very strong following at this point in his hometown or his homeland. So after brief fighting, the Mexican soldiers left without the cannon, and this is known as the Lexington of Texas, referring to the Battle of Lexington and Concord. And Texas volunteers drove Mexican soldiers out of San Antonio, and the Texas Revolution had begun. So I believe this is right here where we're going to pause until tomorrow, and then tomorrow we're going to look at the Alamo. So continue working on your homework. Make sure that you are continuing to work on that throughout the week, and you're answering both the exit ticket and the bell ringer. Talk to you guys soon.